2 years, college football playoffs, ACC Championship games over Miami?
I think that, and I just think familiarity with the setup and the build-up of these kind of games. I mean, they've kind of been there and done that, so I think that helps them. I think coming in, they know how to process that. The other thing is, I think they're just a great team. I think they're playing it. Coming off the game they played last week, they're dangerous for anybody to play. So, yeah, I think they definitely. You'd have to say they have an edge coming in.
Hey, Kirk, what they lost, are you surprised they're here again?
If we talked in August, for sure. You think about when we walked out of that national championship in Tampa, and we're looking at that team and that celebration. You think about some of those players that walked off that field and never see them in a Clemson uniform again, led by Deshaun. And then with Florida State having the team that they had coming back on paper, I think everybody, unless you're a Clemson fan, thought that Florida State would end up being the team to beat. And then, of course, the DeAndre Francois injury and other things that happened for Florida State, and here came Clemson. To their credit, the thing that's remarkable is they didn't lose their edge. Sometimes when you climb the mountain, you finally get there. You're just human nature. You lose a little bit. They didn't at all. And give Kelly Bryant a lot of credit for dealing with the pressure to fill the shoes of Deshaun Watson. And you can just really, when you look back at what they accomplished this year, who knows what's ahead of them. But up to this point, I think as an outsider, I'm blown away by what they've done.
Hey, Kirk, you've seen this Hurricane team, how well they've played at Hard Rock. You've been there.
Oh, yeah.
What do they have to do that outside of Miami and be the team that can, kind of upset?
Well, I think first, what I've seen from Miami is they seem to play up or down to the opponent that they're playing. So I'll be shocked if they don't come out playing the way they played at Hard Rock, even though this is going to be probably a home field advantage for Clemson. I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to come out and play, especially defensively, as if they're ready to shock the world kind of attitude. We'll see if it's going to be good enough. But the team that we all watched the day after Thanksgiving, kind of lethargic and just going through the motions, will not be the team that takes the field when they play Clemson.
Hey, Kurt, talk about the Miami running game. What do they have to do to establish that running game against that Clemson defense?
Well, they've got to run the quarterback. They got to be able to get him going because it's going to be very tough for them to run the football against that front. The Miami offensive line is a little bit of a microcosm of the team. There's some weeks you watch them and you're like, man, they don't get much of a push. They're just not a dominant physical offensive line. And just when you're ready to give up on them, they play Virginia Tech and they move people around. They play Notre Dame and they move people around. Quarterback's got to be a factor. If they're going to run the ball at all, and we're sitting here talking about the post game, well, how did Miami do it? I guarantee that Rozier is going to end up having a game where he runs it 10 to 12 times and has like 70 yards. Yeah. And he's decisive with his decision making. I think those will be the big things that stand out.
Do you think Miami should have a quick start right away, like they did?
I think
like Notre Dame.
I think if they want to win, because again, Clemson is a team because of their style. They are on top of you right now, and if they gain momentum early. And now you got to play catch up. You kind of play into the hands of what they want from you because of their tempo. So if Miami has ideas of winning this game, yeah, that first 8 to 10 minutes of this game will be crucial for them. Sorry, guys.
Kirby, first time being in Charlotte with game day, the excitement around the city. I mean, I know there's no college team here, but the excitement around being in Charlotte for the first time, ACC being relevant in the national picture.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
It's cool. It's great to be here. I've always come in from Atlanta or from Indianapolis, from the other championship sites. So to have an opportunity to be here on Friday and kind of take in some of the energy and excitement. It's a great city, great weather, and two great teams coming in, and so much at stake. If you're a fan of this city or a citizen, you can't ask for much more for an ACC championship. This is perfect.
What's turned the ACC around? 6, 7, 8 years ago, people were worried ACC in terms of football quality. What's turned it?
I think coaching. I think recruiting. I think caliber of athlete is at a much higher level. I think they've had some big wins out of conference, some big wins in bowl games. Players that are going to the NFL. Everybody always pulls out, that chart of how many players are in the NFL from the SEC, and the ACC is like, wait a second, look at our chart. So I think all those things have really allowed this conference to gain a ton of momentum, and I think a ton of respect. I think before it was kind of that conference at times was forgotten, and that's no longer the case. And I think it's the big wins, what Florida State's done, what Clemson's done. Here comes Miami. It's really good stuff.
Perfect. You mentioned Florida State a couple times. What's your take on what's going on with the Jimbo drama down there right now?
Man, I mean, at this point, you guys know as much as I know. I'm just assuming he's gone. I haven't heard he'll come out and talk about if he's staying or going. But if he leaves, I'm anxious to hear what he says. I'm anxious to hear why he wants to go to A&M and what that does as far as who does that open the door for. I mean, there's all talk about Willie Taggart, Charlie Strong. I mean, those guys are great candidates and have enough experience in that state in recruiting that they both could do a very good job. But I'm like you, I'm kind of sitting and waiting to see what happens.
Talk about drama. John Curry out in Knoxville. What's going on in Tennessee? I know their fans have been after you all week. On
Yeah. Yeah, I made a mistake of trying to be positive and say great hire. And that was totally out of line. I don't know, man. That's a mess. Now with what's happened with the athletic director, I guess the vocal minority, not the majority of rational fans, but the vocal minority, I guess they got what they wanted. They wanted him out based on just following along what they were saying, and they were frustrated with how the search was going. And at the end of the day, they're probably going to end up with a great coach who will do a good job for them. But I feel bad as far as the PR of that university and that football program. When you're upset with Peyton Manning, that vocal minority, I mean, that says it all. How can anybody be upset with anything Peyton Manning does, let alone his own fan base? So that kind of tells you the mindset of kind of where they've been these last 6 days.
When you see how fast things like that play out, is that totally a function of social media and the power it has?
Yeah. I think social media, we're all either engaged a little or a lot in it, and it's incredible. I think it's unprecedented, really, to see almost a tidal wave of social media. I think ultimately impact a decision and have a real voice. I don't know what it says about the future. Everybody's going to say, well, this is really going to open the door for. I don't know if that's true. I think that this happened to be this certain administration that caved in to that. It's hard to listen to people that don't. I mean, they're fans of their school, but they don't really know how to design a play or know a whole lot about what's happening on the field, and yet they're going to impact a good or a bad hire. Ultimately, Urban Meyer, Bill Belichick, I mean, you're talking about some of the greatest minds in the sport said that was a great hire, and that tidal wave of negativity said it wasn't, so it's not. It's the first time I've ever seen social media impact a big decision.
Kurt, if
Two more
Miami
questions.
wins this game, do both teams deserve to get in, especially with Clemson's win over Auburn and
If Miami wins this game?
Yeah.
If Miami wins a close game, I mean a really competitive game that ends up, Miami winning it at late, I would be one that would say Clemson should still go to the playoff. If you look at what they've done, their resume, beating Auburn, they were willing to play a huge heavyweight in the non-conference. That should favor them. So if it's a close game, I personally would be saying that Clemson should be in, so it'll give the ACC 2 teams in the playoff.
If Clemson wins, considering what's all gone on the past 3 years with them, where do they stand in the college football hierarchy right now as far as everybody is, Alabama's number one, but where does Clemson stand?
Again, I've kind of had a front row seat to watch this and be behind the scenes with Dabo and this team and watch them go from kind of the outside to being now, being in that upper tier. I think they have to be right there, not just the last 2 years. Really, this goes back to me. I think it was LSU that they beat in a bowl game. From that point on, just go back and look at the names of the schools that they have beaten and the conferences in which they play in. How can you not put Clemson among the elite? I still think they're gaining momentum. I still don't think people quite get how long they've been around. But whether they win or lose this game, for me, they're already at that top tier in the country.